Welcome to Randolph. I'm Glenn Milo, the Director of Admissions here. We are so glad that you took time out of your schedule to come. They were just reminding me that Madison County schools have actually made a decision to close, so I think that we might not have as big a crowd as we wanted, but we're certainly glad that you all are here, glad that our panelists could make it, and we look forward to a really good discussion on readiness for kindergarten. It's really twofold: how to know if your child is ready for kindergarten. If you're struggling with that question, we're here to help and guide you. And the other part of this discussion is simply how to prepare your child for formal school and give them the best start possible, and then going forward that journey into lower school and beyond. So I want to introduce our panelists, and then I'll step aside. Each of the panelists will have about a 5 to 7 minute discussion point, a topic, and then after they're finished, I think it would be great if you all had some questions that you could fire their way, so that we can have, again, a really good discussion. This is Juliet Wells. She is a preschool teacher at First Friends Preschool in downtown Huntsville. Laura Brunnett, one of our own kindergarten teachers, has been here for 8 years? 9. This is your 9th year. Vanessa Robinson, Director of Counseling here at Randolph. Dr. Brian Loud, a Huntsville Pediatric Associate. And Dr. Helena Hagel. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Juliet.
Hi, welcome. I was sitting in your seat 2 years ago. My little child, who is now in first grade here. And now I'm here to talk. Kindergarten readiness is so difficult to define. So much of it is subjective, and you know your child best, obviously, but it depends on age, attitude towards school, maturity level, all of those things, experience. But there are, of course, things that we assess for in pre-K. So I was going to touch on those briefly. But what I mostly want to talk about is the second thing that Glenn mentioned, is how you can help prepare your child for school, because there are so many things that we as parents can do to help you be ready. So as a preschool teacher, and I'll be interested to hear what Mrs. Barnett has to say, but to me, the social emotional pieces are much more important for your child to be ready for kindergarten than the cognitive. It is important, and of course we teach those things and we assess for those things, but the social emotional pieces, can they share and play cooperatively? Can they be a part of a group and listen to instructions? Can they sit for circle time? Can they have a short but focused attention span? Can they demonstrate independence and self-care and personal responsibility, putting their lunchbox away, being responsible for their own folder? Those kinds of things are probably, in my opinion, what prepare you most for big school, as we call it in my family. Cognitively, we expect, if your child cannot do all of these things, it does not mean they're not ready for kindergarten, but we strive to have our children who graduate match sets to a number, write 1 through 10, write their name, understand the left to right swing and using books appropriately, use the correct grip on a pencil, trace and draw simple pictures, all of those things, understand, have a phonemic and phonological awareness. It's not an exhaustive list, but it kind of gives you an idea of some of the things we are looking for in pre-K. How can you get your child ready? The social emotional pieces, to me, obviously preschool, that's where my heart lies, and I think that's where your child will gain so much of that. If preschool is not what is right for your family, you don't send your child to pre-K. Try to get them involved in a sports team, go to Sunday school, go to the little gym, anywhere where they are in a group, realizing the world does not revolve around them, and there is one authority figure that they are required to listen to follow directions from. I think that will help your child's kindergarten teacher so much if they just have that exposure. As far as like literacy and math readiness goes, the fact that you are all here today probably tells me you're already doing these things, but read aloud to your child every day. We all understand the importance of this. Emphasize phonemes and phonics in your conversations. So, we have a new dog. Daisy is such a delightful dog, or disappointing, whichever she is. Do you notice D's? We have so many D's in our family. Play the name game. Do you all remember that? The Thomas, anything that you can do to introduce those phonics in their life is great. Use alliteration, play rhyming games in the car. The car is a great place to do some of this. We look for environmental threat all the time. Speed limit signs, it's a great way to, recognize those higher numbers, street names. If you look at, if you help them to read Walmart and Target and Publix, that gives them some success. Look, you're already a reader. They just recognize it from the big circles, but it gives them some confidence. So, and then now we play with our food. Like if I have a non-vegetable eater, he has 10 green beans on his plate. Eat 4 and count how many are left. You don't have to eat all of them or eat most of them. Eat 3. Play board games and card games. Y'all probably do this at home. There are so many that teach sorting, matching, addition, subtraction. My 5-year-old plays blackjack with my husband, not for money, but she can add up to 21. Play war, all of those kind of things, go fish. And most importantly, just make them feel successful. If you build confidence in them and give them some successes, they're going to come in ready to take on new challenges. They're going to shy away from the new concepts. And kindergarten, they're introducing so much more than we do in preschool. We still do a lot of play. We learn through play, and I know you guys do too. But if they come in, feeling unsuccessful and unconfident, they're not going to gravitate toward those new challenges and love learning like we all want them to. So just give them successes as you introduce new things. And this is one of the main reasons in preschool you'll see so much art and crafts, because we have a long-time pre-K teacher who says art is the one subject where all children can find success, and gives them something to be proud of. If they're struggling to write their name and all of their friends can, they can show their parents their artwork and look what I painted and be confident and be proud of it. So just find what they love and give them some success, and just keep doing what you're doing. The fact that you're here, like I said, tells me that you are all great parents and preparing your kids already.
Yes, to everything she said. I'm going to talk a little bit about kindergarten now and how it's changed. It really has changed so much in the last 25 years, since I was in kindergarten. So the main reason it's changed so much is just because we introduce so much more than we used to. It's full day. A lot of kindergarten programs are not taking time for a nap anymore. There's too many skills we want to introduce them to, and they're sponges. They're ready to learn these things, and they want to learn more. They're so eager to learn. We still have lots of playtime, but as she said, we also learn a lot by playing. The activities are based on what we're learning in class. They're based on reading games, math games, science, social studies, and they just learn from each other as well. So when you are thinking about preparing your child for kindergarten, just realizing that it's going to be faster paced. There's still more time for play, but if they can come in with those successes that she was talking about, where they're comfortable in the school setting, they're able to leave you when they come into the building in the morning, they're able to walk in by themselves. That's a huge step, because they're able to get started right away on the day and focus on what's going to happen that day at school. And they're not worried about where's mom, where's dad. They're able to come in, put their things away, take those responsibilities that we expect. We want them to have those responsibilities at school, putting their own things away, turning in their folder. So you can help with that at home by, when you take them to preschool or an activity that they're going to, they should be carrying their own bag. They're old enough at this point that they can carry their bag and they can put it where it needs to go. It may seem silly, but for a child to be able to know, oh, I can do that. Or it might take them longer to put their own coat on, but they need to be doing those things to get ready for when they come to school. And it just gives them that confidence that they can do it without your help. They're proud of those little moments that they have. So when they're coming to kindergarten, beginning of the school year, we really jump right in. We jump right in with letter sounds, math skills, writing their name, if they already have a background on that, that will just be, they're one step ahead, they're more comfortable with it, they're able to start building those words, start those basic reading skills. A lot of preschool programs now already focus on letter sounds, so they'll already have a really good introduction to that. So we're able to jump into it and say, okay, if you know the letter sounds, now we're going to break it down and talk about the vowels. We're going to talk about the differences and why these are special letters and why we need them in every word. Counting, if you're comfortable counting to 25, 100, whatever it is, then we'll be able to use those skills in the daily activities that we're doing in kindergarten. We also start with a lot of writing activities at the beginning of the year, meaning we want them to sound out a word. The sounds they hear, we're not looking for correct spelling. We should not either. We want them to feel comfortable if they spell apple, A-P-L, that is fabulous. And they should not be told otherwise, because we want them to not be scared and afraid. We want them to do it and not worry about if it's right or wrong. At this point in the year, my students are writing sentences. Some of them are writing stories. It's really amazing what they can do. And I think sometimes as adults we're trying to pull them back and try to do things for them. But like I said, they really should be doing all of these things on their own. Another thing, as school's approaching in late July, early August, things you can be doing with your child is talk about school a lot, drive by school, so that's going to be your school, go visit. If you're able to, take your child to visit even now, let them meet the teacher, let them know who their teacher will be, let them come meet the teacher. I think a lot of schools do before school starts activities where they can come meet the teacher in the classroom. If they don't, schedule a time when you can do that, because that's really important. So that on those first few days, they're able to come in and that's my classroom, that's my teacher. And the teacher will get to know your child as well, which is really helpful for them. Let's see. So the social skills and the maturity are also very huge. Yes, that is a big part of school at this age. The academics are there, they will come though. If they don't know all the letter sounds at the beginning, don't panic, because they will soak that in really quickly and be able to start applying those skills. But if they're not able to sit still for 5 or 10 minutes or to work with other children, that's going to hold them back. That's going to, they're going to take time to address those issues while they learn how to handle those things. So having your kids in activities for a preschool is really helpful to get them used to working with other kids, waiting their turn. When they come to late school, there will be between 14 and 20 kids, depending on the school, and probably just one teacher. So helping your child understand that you need to wait if the teacher's talking to someone else. You can stand there and wait, but not to interrupt. Help them understand what that means and why it's important. Simple things like raising their hand in class. We really focus a lot on listening to other people talk and the other children. We have lots of discussions where the children have sharing time. So each child's having a chance to share. The other kids are learning to listen and really listen to what the other kids are saying. And at the end, they're given a chance to ask questions to the other children. So that shows, okay, they're listening to what their friends are saying, then they're showing that they want to know more about it. It's really neat to see that interaction with the children and just helping them realize they're not the only one. Because at that age, they are the only one in the world, but they have to realize eventually that there are other children and to show interest in those other children. Also things like helping your children understand that at school they will be eating at a table with other kids. Mom and dad will not be sitting there with you hoping you eat your food or telling you to eat your food. That's a hard thing because it's a social time and it should be, but a lot of kids forget to eat because they're so social at that time. And just helping them understand that, okay, when you're at a restaurant, when you're at dinner at home, if you see your child playing a lot or not able to sit still while they're eating, that's something you can really work on. It's helpful to the teachers, but it's also helpful to the child because they need to eat in order to not be hungry all day. At this age, they are hungry all the time. Going to the bathroom as well, this might be their first time they go to the bathroom without you right there outside the door. So we have a lot of issues with little boys, especially playing in the bathroom, which I understand I have one, but helping them to learn before they go to school show them the bathroom. If you make that visit to the school, show them the bathroom and as if I'm going without you, they'll be fine, but just to understand that that's not the playground. But, I mean, these things seem silly, but these are things that can really help them. Let's see. Responsibilities, we talked about that. So, and parents and teachers really should work together to help a child. I know here you do a great job of it, and I hope that all of you do, but it's not drop your kid off the door and I'll see you in May. The teacher and parents should work together. If the child's having an issue, if they're worried about something, talk to the teacher, set up a meeting, see if you can come observe your child in class, or if your child doesn't want to do that. But, the teacher should help you find the best way to help your child. We want that because we want to help your child just as much as you do. So that's a very important thing. This time obviously is just the most exciting time in your child's, I think so, in your child's academic life. And I think there's lots of exciting times, but the beginning should be amazing, and to set them up for success is the most important thing. Obviously, you're all here, so you know that, but just really working on these basic, simple things to get them comfortable so that they are able to take that step into the building on the first few days by themselves and be proud of themselves.
I am Vanessa Robinson, for those of you that are just coming in, and I'm a school counselor here at Randolph. I have been here for 18 years, so I have seen 18 kindergarten classes come through. This spring, I will see my 5th class graduate that I've watched from kindergarten all the way through, which is pretty amazing. And I have learned a lot by being here for this many years, and I want to share some of that with you all. What I've learned is kindergarten is a transitional period for the parents and the student, not just the new student, but parents also taking your baby somewhere and trusting somebody to have them all day long and to do right by them is a big deal, and it can be very hard for parents to experience that. So it is a big deal for everybody. The school's goal is to provide an experience where the parents and the students learn to love school. It should be a great first experience. It is going to set the tone for the student and the family for many years to come. And so we want that to be a very positive experience where the child is going to be able to find some success. It's really important to take some time, do some research, and especially trust your gut about your own child and whether or not you believe that they're ready for kindergarten. You may want to talk to some people that know them, like preschool teachers or family members, talk to some professionals like a pediatrician, and get some more information if you are wavering and you're not exactly sure what it is what you should do. But definitely do some research and trust yourself too, for sure. When a student is ready, it really helps, it ensures that they are going to be successful. And once you've made the decision that you're going to move forward and you are going to have a kindergartner, I really encourage you to go to the school and meet key people that are going to be important in helping them transition and make it as smooth and happy as possible. And these are administrators, these are specialist teachers, like your art and your music, and because there's a lot of different people that come into play during the day, and that can be scary for students. They may think, okay, kindergarten teacher's okay, but now I have to go to art, who is this strange person? So if you can familiarize them with the school and the different key players, it will really help them to transition well and help them to have a successful start to school. I'm going to focus on what school counselors can do and how they can support you and your child and the many changes that come with kindergarten and milestones throughout many years. And so, first of all, I want to emphasize that school counselors are children advocates. That is our main job, is to advocate for the child. And so sometimes parents are fearful of, oh, my child had a counselor, and they can have a negative feeling associated with it. And I really want you to know that school counselors don't do discipline. Yay, because I do not want that to be part of my job. And so I get to be the good guy, and school counselors everywhere get to be the good guy. They are there to help your child, to advocate for them. And so please remember that that is truly their role, and to utilize them for that, and to not be fearful if they come home and say, I saw the school counselor today. And truly in kindergarten, one person goes, everybody wants to go. So we try to make it fun and introduce it as a good thing, so that when the time comes that they need for something more serious, they're open to that. I really encourage you to introduce yourself to the counselors, one of those key people as well, and utilize them for any questions that you come up or any issues that you might be facing, because they're there to help, and they want everyone to feel as if their experience is positive. Counselors are in and out of the classroom, and at Randolph, every kindergartner actually tours my office. So they are going to be familiar with me, just like they become familiar with the nurses and anybody else that they may need to see throughout the day. And it is really to help alleviate any kind of fears that they may have about, why do I have to go talk with this person, or what are we doing, or, stranger danger, and that sort of thing. A lot of the times they're a little skittish, so we really want that to be an open relationship. And I think that if you will take initiative and start that too, that it's going to help that much more. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Part of what counselors do is they're going to provide direct services to the student, maybe the family, and that may mean, parents come in and talk about something, or the child will go to the office to talk about something going on. They support the teacher in the classroom through observation and collaboration. Sometimes an extra pair of eyes is helpful for the teacher to come in and say, okay, what do you see, what do you think, and then we'll talk about some ideas of some things that might help with an issue that the teacher is concerned about. And we also can provide classroom guidance. In some schools that is a regularly scheduled thing, and in others it may be more on an as-needed basis. And so we really are going to be in and out of the classroom a lot, and your child will, I think, wherever they are, will become familiar with the counselor. Generally, what counselors see kindergartners for is separation anxiety, and that is especially true for the first 6 to 8 weeks. After that, it usually calms down and gets better. If it continues, then we will continue to work and help. But that is the biggest thing that we see with kindergartners. And occasionally, parents have a little separation anxiety too. I have been known to snap a picture of a student and text it to a parent after they've calmed down and are happy, so you can get on with your day and know that, okay, I'm crying and things are good now. And so we're happy to do that, or I'll call and say, it's all great, it took 10 minutes, things are fine, enjoy your day. We'll call if there's a problem. I do want to point out that anxiety is the most diagnosed, I want to say illness. It is being diagnosed more than attention in children today. Anxiety is on the rise. And that is true of our population. We've seen that from the past 3 to 5 years as well. So sometimes it can last a little longer and be a little greater, or come back at different times, and we'll work with you through that. But I do wanted to point that out. Rarely, but occasionally, kindergartners may have a behavioral issue or an academic issue that counselors become involved in. It is not very often, and that is because the range of what we consider to be normal development is really, really wide in kindergarten. And so most things fall within normal development. And as they get older, this becomes smaller, and then we may have some outliers. But in kindergarten, it really is hard. And so really there's a lot of observation that is done in kindergarten, and we watch for patterns. And sometimes this can go on for years, something that maybe just picked up a little bit, but 3 or 4 years later, we're seeing that, and we can kind of watch this pattern grow. But rarely in kindergarten do we pick up on a lot of academic major academic concerns and behavioral concerns. It's not that common, but it happens occasionally. The counselor's main goal is just to become the friendly, familiar face to kindergartners and to their families, and to build positive relationships with all of you and all of the children that are involved. So, I think that is all I've got. I'll pass it on.
I'm Dr. Brian Lau. I'm a pediatrician in Huntsville, Pediatric Associates. I've been practicing for 18 years. My panelists have already said some wonderful ideas. In fact, I love the idea of family mealtime for helping development of the family. I love telling parents to sit there with their children, the mommy and daddy, when I first start talking to them about feeding the little babies, to make sure the TV's off, the iPhone's off, and just start the communication. That is just a wonderful process. Mrs. Wells was talking about reading and pointing out signs. And as I was driving with my 15-year-old to drop him off here at Randolph, I actually let him drive with it snowing, and was actually pointing out signs again. It's excessive speed. What the pediatrician can help you with is we get a chance to watch kids grow up from birth to 21. And what it's fun to see them grow, and they're all unique and different. What always comes to mind is your child ready? Is he, based on his age or her age, is he ready? And the question that always comes up to me most commonly is what, and I was talking to my 15-year-old about it, should I have redshirted you in kindergarten? And that is what I get most commonly. And he looked, as we were driving, he was like, no, of course not. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why not? And then he gave me a list of things. So that question comes up quite a lot. And the pediatrician has the advantage to observe kids. We know their development. We get a chance to see how they interact with us. Your pediatrician also does, when you come in for physical examinations, a battery of developmental tests, Denver developmental test. In my group, we now have something called CHATIS, online developmental test, to help us indicate if there's some flags or some areas that need more attention, like these ladies had pointed out. Also, when I'm looking at if a child is ready for kindergarten, I also want to look at some medical issues. Has the child's hearing been checked? Has the vision been checked? Do we have any special medical conditions such as diabetes, cystic fibrosis, certain things that might cause the first year to be more difficult? Then I also end up looking at how has the child interacted in the family, okay? As we all know, I don't think anyone will disagree with me, boys seem to mature later than girls. And some may argue that they never catch up in life, all right? We also can point out that, I always have to tell this with moms of, seems like little boys are constantly bouncing around all over the place, and I have to remind them, you cannot compare your little active boy to little Susie, who's the same age, who can sit there and do every little task, because boys and girls are different. So it's neat to watch them grow up, but do talk to your pediatrician, and they can be very, very useful. And as I always tell parents, when I was a child, I can remember I'm one of 5 kids, and I had a late August birthday, and by God, I was the 3rd of 5. Boom! I was put into kindergarten, and I think there was no questions asked back then. And as one of the ladies pointed out, in the past 25 years, things have really changed. So remember that your child is very unique. You want to do what's best for your child. Try not to compare them to others. And as you pointed out, go with your gut feeling about what people who've loved your child and watched them, the preschool teacher, the relatives, the friends, and that will be your best indication. Take that information and go with your gut feeling of whether your child is ready to start kindergarten or not.
Thank you. Excuse me. As all the other panelists have said, I agree with everything that everybody that came
before me said, and I appreciate all of their perspectives. And I'm a psychologist in private practice, and I've been in private practice since 1991, so I'm very old. And been doing this a long time, and I've seen children in the community in all different situations, and in my own family, I have a child that graduated from Randolph and a child that graduated from Huntsville High, and I've seen how those systems work as well. And one of the things that I think is universally true and really important for kindergarten parents to remember, or upcoming kindergarten parents to remember, is that all of us, or whoever we represent in your family or your community, act as a team, and that we all have the best interest of your child at heart. And I'm going to say that in particular relation to the topic that Glenn wanted me to talk about, which is educational testing. Because I think people get scared when they think about their children being evaluated. And I think if you think about your children being evaluated and talking about educational testing when they're 5, that's really scary. So I want you to know that nobody expects your child to come into kindergarten at any school with a full fund of knowledge, okay? You know, the educational testing that's going to take place at this age level is going to be primarily administered by your teachers, and it's going to be largely observational in nature. They're going to be noticing different developmental things about your child that all the panelists have mentioned already. How about their social skills? How about their ability to communicate their needs clearly? How about their ability to understand and follow instructions? How about their ability to stay on task for an age-appropriate amount of time? How about their ability to manage little disappointments? You know, can they collect themselves in a reasonable way? Again, age-appropriate. We're not expecting them to be 8 or 12. We're expecting them to be 5 or 6. So recognize that and don't be afraid of testing. Remember that testing serves to give you and everybody that works with your children a baseline measure. It lets us know what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, how did they learn best, what environment is best suited for them, what can we do to build on the strengths they already have and to remediate if necessary in areas of weakness, and how do we measure their growth. So when people start talking about test scores and things, don't panic, please. And, you know, Dr. Lau mentioned it and other people mentioned it. Try really hard, and this is really hard, I think it was for me, not to compare your children to other children. Don't compare them to their siblings. Don't compare them to your next door neighbor. Don't compare them to their classmates or the guy on the soccer team, because each child develops differently, and there's a very broad range of normal, as Vanessa mentioned. And each child will develop different skill areas at different rates. Okay, so there's not just one ideal normal thing, and we know that, and the teachers that are working with your children know that. So don't worry a lot about numbers. Worry about, are you seeing growth in areas where you expect to see growth? Are you seeing growth at the pace that you expect to see growth? Some of the panelists mentioned what some call a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Reinforce for your children curiosity. Reinforce risk-taking. Don't punish mistakes. What we want is for them to learn that I learned from my mistakes and being wrong is okay, because if they only look at the goal and if they only look at the test score, they're afraid to take risks, and somebody else mentioned that before. So there will be some cases where additional professional testing might be needed, and that's one of the reasons that Angela asked me to talk to you today. And so here again, remember we're a team. One of the things that will happen is that your teacher will make observations, sometimes formally and sometimes not. And what I will say is don't panic, because we see a couple of things happen. We see people say, oh my gosh, the teacher said, you know, Johnny took too long to finish their art thing. I need to get them tested. What's wrong with my child? Or we see people poo-poo what the teacher said and said, oh, they don't really know, we shouldn't listen to that. Remember that your teachers are observing your children. They're a very rich, important source of information, but that's what it is. So when they say something, try to pay attention to it. I observe that myself. Have other people that interact with my child mention similar things? Do they observe that? Because we're going to look for consistency across age and across settings to let us know if there's something that we really have to pay attention to. So I think those are important things. If you have a child that you decide you want to have assessed for something that's a concern to you, a strength or a weakness, or if somebody else that cares about the child suggests or recommends that you have them assessed, I want to give you an idea of what's going to happen and what the psychologist's role is in that. First, you're going to get a lot of paper, a lot, either through the mail or downloaded from a website, because the psychologist is going to say, I want to know the child's developmental history, I want to know their medical history, I want to know their family history in the event that they have family members who have had similar concerns or characteristics. I want to know if there are any particular stresses happening in the child's life recently that might help us understand what's going on with this child. Because my job, as people in a position like me, is to say, is this anxiety? Is this normal development? Is this a learning disability? Is this a behavioral issue? Is it potentially part of a medical issue? Is the child having trouble sleeping so they can't concentrate? So I'm trying to put together a lot of pieces of a big puzzle to give you feedback and the school feedback so that you know how to proceed. So you'll get all that information. We'll schedule an appointment. I'll ask a lot of questions to follow up. I'll have that opportunity to observe your child and to begin to develop a relationship with your child. And at the end of that time, which might be an hour or an hour and a half, I'm going to say here's what I think we should do next. It might be let's just keep following them and kind of monitoring certain behaviors, collecting data. And it might be let's do some more testing. So if we do testing, we're going to look at ability to learn and attention and memory and how quickly they learn and do they have the listening skills and do they appear anxious, a wide variety of things. We're usually going to do it across 2 sessions so we can watch the children or the child more than one time because we're all different on different days. Then we're going to meet with you. We're going to go over those results. We're going to make recommendations. Recommendations might include things you can do at home. Let's try to do a behavior management program to get them comfortable sitting for longer periods of time. Let's create environments to teach social skills. We might have recommendations for the school. Let's sit closest to the teacher and develop an inconspicuous prompt so the teacher can get their attention without embarrassing them in front of their classmates. We might say, let's talk to your pediatrician. Maybe the child will benefit from the medication. We might say, let's go to therapy and do something to manage anxiety. As Vanessa said, children are very, very anxious. We live in an increasingly competitive and demanding world. There were so many more pieces of information. Children are expected to learn so much more than they were expected to learn or know at the same age, certainly when I grew up and when my children grew up. So remember that all that data is useful data for you and your child to help them learn the best that they can, demonstrate what they're able to learn and know the best that they can, be comfortable in themselves, recognize their strengths and weaknesses, and put them in the best place to take advantage of the resources in our community. So remember, most importantly, in my mind, we're all a team. Every adult that interacts with your child is on your side, and everything that they say to you is presented with the intention of helping you learn something important about your child and move them forward in their development. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of points before we open it up for questions. First, we are recording, so I just wanted to make everybody aware. If you haven't noticed that we are recording this. And then Kelly Emerson, Eddie Wilson, and I are here afterwards if any of you have specific questions about Randolph Kindergarten. But if the questions for the panelists at this time could just remain very general about general kindergarten, then we would appreciate that. So we'll open it up for some questions. Hopefully we've got some. Yes?
So I'm interested in what you said, Vanessa, about increase in incidences of anxiety. And I understand that there's really only so much you can do as a parent with its personality. Do you have any recommendations for how we might kind of give them the skills that they need to deal with difficulties or challenges or those kinds of things, just in the day-to-day setting?
Yes, she is asking what parents can do when you have an anxious child and to help them deal with day-to-day things that come up. Is that correct? Did I get that?
Just, how you can help them get perspective on issues, just
Okay. It can be a difficult thing to help a child who's going through anxiety to gain perspective and come to the realization that things maybe aren't exactly the way that they feel like they are, because that's their reality. And so it is a bit of a challenge. A lot of times, talking with them about it, depending on their age and their maturity level, but letting them be able to voice it, talk about it, or write it down will help them kind of get it out. And if there are certain situations, a lot of times there's certain books written to help kids deal with if they are afraid of the dark, or, so there can be some things like that too that are specifically made to help with specific issues. A lot of kids with anxiety need a lot of structure and routine. That is helpful for them to feel better, to know what to expect. We often will see a child that asks 20 times, who's picking me up today, who's picking me up today, where do I go after school? Even if they know and we're told, they need that reassurance. So if you have an anxious child, try to keep your routine and structure in place for them. That will really give them some security about things. I also would talk to your pediatrician about it if you're seeing something that's concerning you, and keep an eye on it. It may get to the point where they might need some other intervention, some counseling to help learn skills and to deal with things if it gets beyond what you can do at home and what you're feeling good about. If you're not seeing it alleviated and they're under a lot of stress, and it's painful to watch them with anxiety. It's very hard to watch them suffer through that. And so if it gets to the point where you feel like you need some more help, don't be afraid to ask. If you're in school, ask the counselor, ask your pediatrician. There's a lot of great online resources. There is a ton of research and literature out online right now about anxiety in children that is really great. I'm getting new information every day that I'm reading and trying to keep up with, because we're seeing it increase, that we're getting more information about it, which is helpful. Do you have anything to add?
I agree with everything that you've said, and we do know that one of the best ways to manage anxiety in children and adults is what we call exposure and also cognitive behavior therapy. That means talk to your child about it. Exposure doesn't necessarily have to be behavioral where you're taking them somewhere, but talking to them about it and giving them opportunities, not just to get it out, but also to get control over the emotion that's associated with talking about it. That's really important, giving them ways to reframe something. So if they talk about something being scary, talk about it being exciting and having new opportunities, having them think about what the outcomes could be, and always ending the story with a kind of very probable but possible, but positive outcome. We have some really good research coming out. It's been out for a while now on what's called mindfulness and mindful meditation. Mindfulness meditation and the role of meditation in treating anxiety disorders. And there's some great resources for families and children about teaching mindfulness and meditation at home. There's a great book that's called 10 Mindful Minutes. It's actually developed by the Goldie Hawn Foundation with some neuropsychiatrists. That teaches your child simple techniques that they can take with them everywhere, one of the most important of which is breathing. People laugh when I tell them to breathe. It's really important. And breathing makes a huge difference in your experience of anxiety. and whether the anxiety escalates emotionally. So those are some of the main things.
I will see the anxiety manifest when the child comes in with recurrent headaches, recurrent abdominal pain. They'll come in with some complaints like that. And so the answer is really dependent on the age of what to do. So for the younger kids, one of the most important things I tell parents is manage the multimedia in the world. I mean, you just one click away from every one of us looking at something, and it makes every one of us very anxious and worried about the world. And so the one thing I emphasize is just really be cognizant of that and turn off the multimedia. Another thing that I will tell that I'm a big believer in for anxiety of all ages is I think kids have to be physically active. I think your body has to be reset by vigorous physical cardiac activity. So if the kids are not doing that, I emphasize that too.
Excuse me. I have a question about, we kind of got into it a little bit with redshirting, where the birthdays are kind of close, or even maybe the birthday's not close, but the child's a little bit borderline. Redshirting versus repeating. If the child is borderline, is it a good idea to go ahead and start in the kindergarten, see if they kind of catch up and can mature during that year, or, and then I guess it leads into the second question of, if they're not, is the recommendation to take them out and start over, or just to get through the year and then repeat? How does that get handled?
I guess since I use that term first, I'll tell my answer what I tell parents.
You repeat the question, right?
All right, so the question came up of redshirting your kindergarten child. And so what that means is, it usually comes up if you have a little child, late summer birthday like July. Should that child not start kindergarten yet? Should the child wait one whole year? And so a lot of the discussion that I'll have with the parents, I will look to, figure out what the paternal expectations are, with the mom and dad who I've gotten to know over the years. There are some parents, some usually fathers, who are absolutely convinced that their child is going to be the next professional athlete, and they are dead set that that child is going to be redshirted their kindergarten year. And as far as physical development, if a child is held back 1 year, of course that child's going to be bigger, stronger, faster when it comes into the times of sports, especially middle school sports. So my answer usually to the parents are, if it's a decision around whether to redshirt or not, is consider putting them into a church kindergarten program, giving the child a chance to continue to grow and develop, and then if the child needs to have a repeat kindergarten, then move them on to your kindergarten at the school that you're going to, okay? I think that's easier than having a child start at a kindergarten and then be amongst the peers, and even all the little kids, they know who was the kid that was held back, and then that might end up being the label the child has for a while. If the child does an outstanding job in the church kindergarten or another kindergarten, then the teachers there can tell the parent how much the child is mature, and then that child could go directly into a first grade program.
I'll speak to that as well, if that's okay. This is one of the most difficult questions, first of all, that I think we get, because you know your child best, and I know that doesn't help your question, but we see this a lot, and sometimes the child coming in with that late June, July, August birthday, especially boys, I'll be honest, but we kind of wonder, are they going to be okay this year? But sometimes they turn out just fine, and they mature, and they, meet all the goals that they need to meet to move on to first grade. Sometimes they don't, and we say, the best thing for this child is just more time. Give them another year to grow, another year to mature. And to also think in the future, thinking about college, thinking about them entering college at 17, that's your personal thought and choice, but it's important to think about that as well. I've got 2 this year that are repeating, and it has been the best decision for those 2. And at this point in the year, they're fitting right in with the peers that they have now. They still have the friends that are in first grade, but I think at this age, they don't realize exactly what's going on. I mean, they might know, okay, Susie's doing kindergarten again, but so what? Susie's doing kindergarten again. It's fun, and at this age, it's better now than in third grade or fourth grade. But it's definitely a hard choice. I think his suggestion of putting them in a church preschool or something else is, if you're really not sure, that's a great option. But I think if you're entering them into kindergarten school and you're tempting them to stay, if you have that open mind that, okay, I know it's a possibility that my child might need to repeat, then that's probably your best mindset that you can have if you know you're open to that and you'll be okay with that. The teacher brings that up. We even had cases where parents bring it up before the teacher does, and that sort of we decide really, okay, you said it first, but I think too, to stress that it's not a bad thing if the teacher or you feel like, okay, my child needs to do kindergarten again. It's not a bad thing, it's not a negative, we want to help your child. If they need more time, that's okay. So, yeah, I think you have basically 2 options of go ahead and put them in and see how they do with the chance of doing it again, or put them somewhere else and then see where they need to go.
I think if there's an obvious reason that you're worried about, then waiting is okay too. I had one that I didn't start kindergarten until 6. He had a late June birthday, and it absolutely was the best thing. He had no interest in school. He's still not my student that loves school, and it was the best thing for him. If you have a student that is ready and you wait, just because, you're worried about the age, or, you have different things, but everything else shows that he's ready, I suggest really going forward and getting them involved so that they are continuing to be challenged and they will learn to love learning. They're not going to be bored. If they're ready, then provide them with opportunity to move forward. But if you know for sure there's something, then don't hesitate to wait. And if you're unsure, then I think what both of these people have suggested is fine, as well as to go ahead and try something, but with an open mind that we may need to do this again. But I don't think age is the definite reason why this is just say, I think you really have to look at each child. Sometimes we'll have a March, April birthday, and they're not ready, and that's okay too. And so it really needs to be decided based on the individual child. Do you feel like we answered your question?
Yes.
Ashley, I think you have a question.
Oh, yeah. So I have a July birthday, and he's a follower. Is there any suggestions on how to not encourage not following, or do best things to hold them back and maybe they won't be as followed?
I will say, if you have a student or a child who tends to follow others and they're younger, is it best to allow them to go on with the concern that maybe they're going to continue to follow their peers, or if they wait, it may be better for them to become more of a leader? And I will say older students are generally more leaders. So we do have, certainly have seen lots of cases where a student that was given an opportunity, we call it the gift of another year, because for some it really is a gift, and it's an amazing transformation from when you have a stressed out child to a happy, thriving child, that they will become the leaders in the classroom, and it really makes a huge difference. Sometimes it's just personality though, and so it's not a guaranteed fix. Some kids are born leaders and it won't matter about age, and some are going to take the back seat and kind of follow along and let other people kind of decide how to go, and age may not change that as well. So it's kind of a hard one. Do you agree?
I have a quick question. Similar vein, but different. So I have a child who's incredibly interested, loves learning, loves to be in school. He's actively in a pre-K program this year, but he's a little guy. He is small as small gets. You look at all of the other guys, oh, Mike Mason here. Look at all his buddies, and he's a little guy. And I'm just worried if he's gonna always be a little guy. How do you go with that?
Okay, that seems to be a pediatric question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, if your child is small for stature, have you addressed kindergarten readiness based on their physique? So when I have parents come in and ask that question, number one, I look at their birthday. Is it, where are their birthday, June, July, or August? And then I also need a history of, how tall is mom, how tall is dad, how tall are grandparents, okay? And then children's going through puberty is it's a huge ratio, okay? So then I also talk of developmental history. When did mom have her development, okay? When did dad have the development, okay? Because small right now may not necessarily dictate, okay? And I had the advantage in my practice. If anybody goes there, I will use Dr. Stewart as an example of, he's one of my partners, as a boy who went through puberty early. He is 5'8". Contrary, he will use me as an example as a boy who went through puberty late. I'm 6'4". And all my little patients will come in and assume I played basketball, and I did not. So I was, probably only 5'6" or 5'4" as a freshman in high school, okay? So the question, small now does not necessarily dictate. So the best way to handle that is talk with your pediatrician, let him go over what we talked about, your history, and then he can look at the child's growth now, okay? So that's not necessarily given that he will always be the smallest.
And I just want to answer that just for a second, and I don't know that this is what you're asking, but from a psychological perspective, I think whatever our children's, as I was saying, strengths or weaknesses, gifts, differences, whatever we want to call them, all of our children have some ways that they're going to excel and some ways that they're going to not do quite as well. And so for every child, not just with physical stature, but on almost every measure, you want to be able to talk to your child about what their strengths are. And if they wind up saying things that suggest they feel bad about that, then you're going to talk to them about that and give them ways to think about that balances their perspective between their strengths and the things that are not as good in their mind. But if your child's happy and thriving and loves school and is not concerned about being the smallest one, besides a private discussion with your pediatrician, I probably wouldn't discuss it at all.
Well, as you can see, I'm probably way more concerned about it than he ever is. But I'll just look around and like, oh, he's always just, little guy. So
I'd love to hear Mrs. Burdick's going on, because I have a little guy. He's smaller than most of his friends. And then my third grader has, one of his good friends is very small. I have never once heard it mentioned from either of them that it's a concern that, gosh, he's so short, or I feel so short. I don't think they notice at this age.
I agree with that. Kids really notice a lot less than we do. Everything from skin color to height to size to, they just think it's fun to play with their friends. And, they might comment here and there, I'm taller than you, you're shorter than me, but they just stay fast. Also tell me I have something in my teeth. They just tell you. But I think if the child is comfortable in their own skin and with their size, if they don't realize it's a thing to be worried about, then they're not going to bother if someone says, you're short. Kids are going to say those things, but
I've just noticed more, I think, because his sister, my daughter, who's quickly creeping up there, and his stance on the issue is, I will always be your big brother. It's like, you might be taller than me, my cousin is already taller than me, but I'm older than you, kind of thing. It just has made me more conscious of it, I think, recently.
And I agree with what they're saying. At that 5-6-year-old range, they really aren't as aware of it. When I see it come into play, it's when kids really notice the difference is middle school, when puberty is hitting, early high school.
is kind of one of those kids who is a ball of energy. She's a girl, that happens sometimes. She's involved, she dances, she swims, she's really physically active. But my concern is, how is she going to make the transition to kindergarten, where she's going to be a little bit more sedentary? How can I help her? How do we handle that? How do kindergarten teachers handle that? Those really, really active kids. She's able to concentrate for really long periods of time, but eventually she just bursts out.
Okay, so she's asking about high energy children and how to handle that at school. First of all, lots of coffee, and then for the teacher, not the child. So one of the ways I think kindergarten has changed so much is they're giving so many more opportunities to move. We really don't sit that much throughout the day. We go to the playground twice. I think all schools, kindergartens have at least one playground time each day, recess. Lots of PEs. They have lots of chances to move. Plus, a lot of the activities we're doing, they learn through movement. So, so much research has been done about this that there's a lot more lessons being done with the children standing or moving or walking around, jumping. I think, it sounds like you're aware of this, so you probably have her in a lot of activities already. Keep that up, but I think that should not be your huge concern, because she really will not be sitting all day long. There's a lot of chances to move. Even when they go to other classes in music, they march on there singing and playing games with each other. So it's a very active day.
What would you suggest if you have a child who you feel like is on this level for many of their different skills, like gross motor and verbal and everything, but there's one skill that's significantly lower? Do you want that child, have what would you suggest about early intervention and going to occupational therapy before kindergarten when you see that now at age 4? Or is it just something you let ride out, and assess later? And should we be thinking about occupational therapy for fine motor skills, writing, correct graphing, that kind of stuff?
The question is, if you have a child that is meeting most of what you consider to be normal developmental milestones, but there's one that is lacking that you feel is quite a bit below where it should be, should you seek out some sort of intervention? And I would say I would be doing something to try and help. It may not need to be a formal, where you're actually seeing an occupational therapist, but if you can get online and find things that you can be doing at home, if that helps, then great. If not, then you may want to go and see an occupational therapist. Things like speech therapy, the younger you start, the easier the intervention is, the quicker that it takes place. And so there may be some things like that with occupational therapy too, where it's going to be a whole lot shorter to deal with it when they're younger versus waiting until they're older, and then it takes longer, it's harder. And so early intervention is often a great idea. And if it's something that you're recognizing, then, and if you're comfortable, doing some of the things, or if you can find things that, good resources, but if you don't see that helping, then you may want to do something more formal. And maybe talk to your pediatrician about that as well.
And a lot of times the therapists will come into the preschool classroom, if you don't, you have to be a lot of children, if you don't have time for it, they'll come to your child's school and work with them as well.
I agree. I'm pretty quick generally to recommend going to speech therapy or occupational therapy. And I agree. Starting earlier, it does seem to help. So if you're noticing something, I would talk to your pediatrician.
It doesn't hurt to have an evaluation so you can find out whether your worries are well-founded or not.
Any other questions?
Well, if not, I think we'll conclude the session, and thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to our panelists for